Hello and welcome. This is episode 13 of a podcast Engineer-to-Manager. My name is Alex Maestrenko. I'm a podcaster and advisor to the CDTO here in Kyiv City Council, Ukraine. In this podcast, we dive into the essence of engineering management. We explore what engineering management is and what are the challenges and opportunities. For this journey, I invite experienced EMs from different parts of the world. Today's guest is Irina Stanescu. Hello, Irina. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking. Good. Cannot complain, as you say in the US. It's great to have you here. And so you basically graduated from University of Romania, which is literally across the board here from Ukraine, very close to where I am now. And then you're skyrocketed to the US with a career at Google, Uber, and then a smaller company, Mnemonic, and now you're running your own business. Wow. Yeah, as I say, you're dedicating your time now to engineering coaching. Is everything correct? Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, no, I think you were pretty spot on. So I was born and raised in Bucharest, Romania. That's where I got a degree in computer engineering from the Polytechnic University of Bucharest. And then shortly after graduating, I got a job offer from Google. I interviewed, obviously. They didn't just give me the offer. But I got the opportunity to move to California and work for Google. So that's kind of how my career, in a way, blew up. Like I never expected when I went to college to end up here. And as you mentioned, my journey has taken me from big tech companies, and I just kind of went smaller and smaller, from Google to smaller being Uber, and then to like a very early stage startup, Mnemonic. And as you said, throughout...
It's very interesting how you compare Google and Uber being one bigger company, one smaller, because for me, both companies are quite big, tech companies, right?
Yeah, I know you're not the first person to have this reaction, but from the inside, I can tell the difference. Like they were not operating as if they were the same size. So that's why for me, having experienced Google, going to Uber felt like I was going to a smaller company.
Was it in the processes or was it in the organization?
Yeah. I think it was mainly in the maturity of the processes. And during my time there, I've experienced many revamps of many processes, including how they did performance evaluation, how they were, designing systems and building software. I think while I was there, Uber went through a phase of growing up. And so they were solidifying how to do things. While when I went to Uber, everything was to Google, things were already sort of in place and stabilized.
So they didn't change basically, as they were already a huge enterprise when you were onboarded Google, sorry.
Yeah, not as much. Not in terms of, they had a very clear process for designing, like design docs, and they did change over time. They changed how they made, for example, performance evaluation. They sort of try to streamline it because even as Google was growing, some processes didn't scale. And for example, performance evaluation ended up taking months, like a month and a half out of people's times. And so they also adapted. But, in terms of how the phases of building software, and I can talk about this for hours about the differences between Google and Uber. But yeah, at Google, you could tell that there were more senior people, more people who've been there for 5+, 10+ years. Whereas I feel like at Uber, if you were there for more than 2 years, you were already there for a very long time. More people came and went, I think.
And they're just curious, why did you move to Uber? Because at Uber later you had a tech leader job, right? So you were moved from IC to a more leadership position as well.
So at Google, when I left, I was a TLM. So I was a tech lead manager. When I went to Uber, I sort of went back to tech leading. And the reason was because I felt like, first of all, there was no tech lead manager role at Uber, no TLM. if that was an option, I would have taken it because I've always enjoyed this hybrid, like still be technical but also lead, work with people, help build teams and so on. And so I didn't feel like I was ready to choose. Like they basically asked me to choose, do you want to be a tech lead or do you want to be an engineering manager? So at the time, this was like 2017, I wasn't ready. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go as a tech lead. The reason why I joined Uber was mainly, I had multiple reasons. One of them being I was at Google for 5 years at that point, and I knew that staying in a place for too long can make you complacent and it can make you stagnate. And I loved Google. Don't get me wrong. Like I didn't like it was one of the best employers I've ever worked for. And I sort of left with a sadness in my heart, but knowing that I'm doing it to grow. That was the main reason. And also with Google, a lot of things are built in house, a lot of their technologies for pretty much everything. And I remember saying that I want to experience the outside world. You know, I wanted to see what it's like to like how other companies do things because I was pretty sure not everybody has the resources to build everything in house. So there are, open source technologies or external tools that other companies use to build things. So I wanted to learn about that.
Was Google just to support you on the thesis that everything's built in-house? What I saw within their engineering management domain, that they developed their own techniques and approaches for engineering management. And with all respect to Google, they also put it online. We'll put the link in the description to that website where you have all the practices that they claim to use in Google, where they describe, I think it's called rework or something like that. Or I might be mistaken, but they kind of give you even the templates of one-to-ones, of running the meetings and all those stuff. It's very nice that they put it publicly available for everyone to use. So kind of giving back to the community. Very nice.
Yeah, Google definitely had a better management process and management training and more support that they offered to managers. Like even I, as a TLM, I had to go through management trainings. I was sent to leadership trainings. They had leadership trainings within the company that they nominated people that weren't even managers to send them to these leadership trainings. They invested in people, I felt like. Whereas I think Uber, first of all, didn't have the resources to do this. But second, it was more all over the place when it came to management and how the support they gave to managers. Especially as the company evolved from like 2013 towards 2020, for example, it went through numerous iterations. So, like basic resources, as you mentioned, like one-on-ones or feedback or career development plans, these were not really set in stone. And I loved Google's attitude of sharing. That was also a sort of a cultural thing that happened within the company of there was this culture of, I found out, I discovered, I learned this new thing. I kind of want to share it with others so I can teach others.
Nice. But then with Uber, you were in that phase where the company has been growing, right? And when you grow, you are not putting things in stone, since the next step will be different. And with that hyper growth, you just have to be very flexible and adaptive, and you are more interested in the things that you are doing rather than in keeping all the processes. That's how I experience and what I imagine about that company.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Uber's journey definitely, like when I joined, Uber kind of had that identity crisis of, and there was a lot of drama in the press. I joined in 2017, which is exactly when the drama started. And so Uber got to a point where it was growing so much, hyper growing, but then in a way it was also, I don't want to say imploding, but it was crumbling. Like nothing internal was stable. So they had to figure out, okay, we're not the super small company that we used to be. Now we actually have a lot of people that we need to figure out how these people are going to work together, and we need to redefine ourselves. So that's when Uber 2.0 came to exist, and the revamped cultural values, the new CEO, and everything. So I think that's when the company realized that they have to start getting some things more solid, like solidify some of the things in order to progress. You know, the famous quote of like, what got us here won't get us there. You know, so they had to figure out what is going to get us to the next piece, which was, right, the IPO was a big one. So getting the company together to IPO and to become profitable was not the same as what made the company got to where it was.
So basically, you went from a company with very stable culture where you could gain a lot of knowledge to a company where you could experiment and apply that knowledge that you got, kind of see how the things work, make your own mistakes, everybody, and have your own successes with their team, and the team grows. So sounds like a very nice and correct move for you that you made when you moved to Uber at that particular stage. Right now, it might be a different company, but at that time, it was okay. Like, here is all the knowledge that I got, and now let's try it out in the field that is secure, right? As a company there. Nice. And then what made you to move to Mnemonic, like a startup company?
Yeah. So first, thank you for saying it was a correct move, because I thought about it so many times, because sometimes, you know, people see these moves from the outside, and including myself from the inside, including with the moving to Mnemonic. I literally, sometimes I'm asking myself, am I crazy? Why am I doing this? Because the more, like, my story has been, the more I advanced in my career, the more risk I took in a weird way. But I definitely thought it was worth it. And I thought it was the correct move. Even though, you know, I wish the company, there's so many things I wish were different. But for me, I thought that was it was a very important stage in my life, and I've learned a lot. And now with the transition to Mnemonic. So after Uber, I actually took a year off because I was really burnt out. And during this burnout recovery phase, I was asking myself and trying to answer some fundamental questions about, what do I want from this next step of my career? Do I even want to be in tech? Am I completely done? No, but that's what burnout makes you think, in a very kind of black and white terms of like, all tech sucks.
What other alternatives did you explore? Like, I don't know, winemaking or
Starbucks? I don't know. I haven't explored, but I was ready. I was like, okay, if we're not doing tech, then what else is out there? I liked coffee, so I was like, maybe I can just work at a coffee shop. At least they'll give me health insurance, hopefully.
Like, it has been a big struck when you were thinking or considering going from multi-billion-dollar company to a Starbucks, just working as a barista, right, or serving coffee. And I just cannot imagine what the thoughts and all the things that you had in your head. That must have been a tough time for you.
Yeah. So I actually, during my burnout period, I started a newsletter where I went really deep in explaining my burnout experience, explaining it to myself for first of all, and understanding the causes. Burnout is this deep exhaustion and this deep kind of negativity and cynicism, and also lack of perceived loss of skills. Like, you feel like you don't know how to do your job anymore. And so I was like, if I feel like I can't do my job anymore, how am I going to go back into doing this job if I feel like I cannot? Like, my brain refuses. And I remember thinking, what's happening? Do I have amnesia? I've done this for years. Like, I just could not focus. So that's why I was like, okay, I have to consider my options, right? But luckily, I healed from burnout after. So taking time off, really understanding and processing my experience and my lessons and the causes. I think that was huge for me because I understood how I contributed to my burnout experience, but how external factors contributed to my burnout experience. So moving forward, I didn't want to leave tech. That's the thing. I still love teams. I love building things with teams. I love solving hard problems, you know? So then I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to go into tech again. And the reason why I joined an early stage startup was because I thought of the following. If toxic cultures or bad cultures lead to burnout or other problems, not just burnout. I would love to be part of the initial phase of building a culture. So building it from scratch. And so, because it's easier to build a culture from scratch the right way versus going and fixing a culture that's already like not where it's supposed to be, you know?
And again, here you make another move. So basically, you had like a set in stone culture, developing culture, and new culture. So kind of going from a person who already was his own or her own experience to a baby who like, okay, let me try to teach you how to behave, how to interact with the world, and kind of raise
How to work
that
together.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because it's interesting. So you basically reapply your experience every time you make the move. And now with our newsletter, you're sharing another application of your experience. Nice career, nice approach to building that path.
Again, it's terrifying. Trust me, all these moves are terrifying. It's a lot of risks, and you always ask yourself, am I blowing up my career by making this move? Is this going to lead somewhere? Am I wasting time? Am I wasting money? Should I just go back to Google? Like, it's not easy to make these changes, but in the grand scheme of things, and I think that's very important for everybody to not lose sight of the grand scheme of things, of what does that mean for my career and what does that mean for my skill set and my exposure. Because I think oftentimes, it translates into how we lead. How you lead at a company at like Google versus how you lead at a company like Uber versus how you lead at a startup, very different. How you build software at these different sizes.
I think this is three different styles and different approaches.
Yeah. And like being adaptable and understanding what's needed from you at the level of the company you're at. I think that was the really good like lesson that I've learned. And like being adaptable, I think that was big. And understanding what does your team need from you? Because it's easy to follow manuals and check boxes of at a big company, XYZ, at a small company, like to-do lists. But it's not about that. It's about you understanding what's needed from you at that size.
Yeah, that's basically, so you select their tools and the approach, and there you have to have the feeling of the team, not being extremely formal, but not also going to extremely informal, because if you lose their formality, the process, the structure, then you're basically blowing the project away with the project or the product going in a direction you're not really controlling, which is bad. So you have to keep that balance of their adaptation and of the structure all the time that you work with a team. Then basically you kind of made this all three steps from very solid to a newborn, and then you decided to cut this path and go into your own coaching company, your own coaching business. I read on your website that you explained when you start coaching.
So I think I'm a very introspective person, and I like to really understand things about myself, about what has happened to me. Same with the burnout. Like I really wanted to understand how did I get there, what to do differently. So I was trying to figure out what about my job that I love the most. What about my job is giving me the most fulfillment and the most joy? Because I believe joy and fulfillment are the things everybody should prioritize in their to have a career that's fulfilling and worthwhile. So in my search for joy and for meaning, I realized that the best moments of my day-to-day job, and I was a tech lead at the time, my best moments are when I spend time with people, one-on-one or in groups, and we work together. I guide them towards finding their solutions. There are times where they came to me with a problem that I'm like, oh my god, I've never seen this before. I have no idea how to solve this. And as a tech lead, I actually was telling them.
Basically, all the problems that nobody have solved before are very typical in tech, and you see them, well, unfortunately, all the time, and they are the most challenging, yes, and you have to kind of look from different angles and try to help people, involve them in the problem solving, because nobody knows how to do it. You just have a problem, and you're just trying to find the solution.
Yeah. And my job as a tech lead wasn't, that's one thing that I've learned early on, is my job as a tech lead wasn't to solve everybody's problems. My job as a tech lead was to deliver the project. So that meant I needed to use all the brains in my team to come up with solutions, right? So that process of guiding someone to finding their own solution was the best, because afterwards we would both be like, wow, I can't believe we did this. I can't believe we found this. So for me, that was magic. That was magical. That was amazing. And then I realized that I actually had done it in the past when I was a teaching assistant. Kind of the same in college. My students would have these coding exercises, and then they would ask me to come help them troubleshoot their issues. And I would look at their code, and my eye was very trained at that point, so I would immediately spot the issue. But then, and I would be like, okay. And they would ask me, you know what the problem is, right? And I was like, yep. And you're not going to tell me, right? And I was like, yep, I'm not going to tell you. And then we would work together. I would say, okay, walk me through what you wanted to do here. How did you choose? What made you make these choices? What were you thinking here? Explain to me. And you know what the best moments were? When they would find their own bugs.
Those aha moments, like, wow, yes, I did them.
Yes.
I found them.
Yes. Those aha moments are the most powerful teaching moments. It's not when I tell them, do X, Y, Z. It's when they remember that, oh, that was it.
And basically use the same thing in the coaching, I guess, when you're coaching people right now, kind of guiding them through from them to find the solution.
Because, and that's the other thing, is I sometimes have my opinions and my solutions. I refrain from offering as long as I can, because I want them to think. I like most of my time I spend asking questions.
Yeah, that's what exactly I wanted to ask, kind of that their EM or the tech lead have to follow the same path as a coach. So keep this coaching skill within your toolbox and ask questions instead of bring the solutions, to make sure you use the brain, as you said, of the team, and also train them, get them together, glue them together, all the brains, all the heads. And you might also have your own opinion, which is wrong, right? That your solution is incorrect. That might happen. Hello?
Yeah, that can happen.
Absolutely. And therefore, basically, just make sure you get another point of view, you get another, a team, and that's what the team is for.
Honestly, my team ended up realizing the same, of they being genuinely in awe of how, what we co-created. They left with a sense of, we're building something here that either of us individually would have been able to build. And like that moment of collaboration and teamwork is just beautiful. I have no words. Like that is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, that was actually my reason to go to engineering management, to realize that with a team you can achieve more. And
Yes.
as an engineer, you like to build systems, you like to build big systems that are complex. And then you realize I cannot build them on my own. I need somehow to change the situation. And then, oh, well, I can have a team, work with a team, get their experience, get their knowledge, get their help in building and solving bigger problems and then achieving bigger results, which is like, wow, let's just guide them through, be careful with them, help them, support them, and actually learn from them, right? So as an engineering person, you learn from the team all the solution that they bring, all their architecture, all the bugs. They are your bugs as well. So no worries. Yeah. You're part of the process. You're part of the co-creation, right? You're not doing code, maybe not anymore, but you're part and you can, just don't go there with a code review. Be very mindful to make sure the right person does it. So you can stand by but and sit along, but not do somebody's work of your team. And how to, in your experience, how to stop engineering manager from interrupting in the team, from kind of setting the way he or she wants the team to move instead of letting the team go and supporting the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a common tendency that I've seen with some managers to sort of feel like they have to be the controlling factor. They have to be the controlling force. That's just not true. Like, your job as a manager is to empower the team and decision making. And obviously you can't completely always be super democratic because some people might not have on the team. Like, you can't just ask, hey, everybody on the team, let's vote on how we should do something. I mean, that can work sometimes, but sometimes it won't. So you need to kind of know when. But at the same time, you have to use the people on your team and you have to use their expertise. But for that, you have to know them and you have to build trust with them. Because I think oftentimes, so what this, when managers want things their way, it kind of communicates that I think my way is better. So managers communicate that they know better. And as a manager, that's not the impression that I want to send to my team. I believe that I have certain strengths and skills, but I know.
That's fine.
Hello, Lizzie. But I want everybody's strengths and skills to shine, right? So once I get to know these people and I build trust with them, I need to trust that they can do the job, right? So then I ask them, hey, what is your opinion on this? How would you do this? What do you think we should be doing here? And involving them. Well,
trust is a key thing here. And basically, their knowledge for everyone on your team, right? How understanding their strengths and weaknesses. You didn't mention weaknesses, because for me also the weaknesses are super important. As I say in my daily job, like, guys, I have also my weaknesses and you have. So let's make sure we support each other where we are weak and where we have an opportunity to develop further. Let's see how to combine all those things.
Yeah, totally. And then I want to say, besides weaknesses, is like sometimes they're just things you don't enjoy as much to do. And that's why you have a team, so you can balance out those things. And same with managers. Like, there are managers who, I don't know, would rather not have to, for example, depending on the team. Sometimes managers lead scrum meetings. Sometimes other people want to do it, like, let them do it. Or some people they want to lead meetings, like lead retrospective meetings. These are great opportunities for your team to start stepping up and taking on more responsibility.
So we just discussed one of their examples of their bad management. And obviously you've seen through your coaching career, through your personal career, through career of your friends and family, and well, all the people, different bad management techniques, different bad management approaches. Can you share a few of them so that we kind of go through, I don't know, 5, if we can, sins of bad management that you think are the worst ones?
I want to talk about the worst ones, but I also want to talk about the ones that seem nice, but they're actually very damaging because nice managers can also be very damaging. It doesn't, so obviously one, like the dictatorial, unfair, aggressive manager is on one extreme. They usually lack the ability to involve their teams, and they're literally just commandeering. So I've seen that type of manager, and that's not the way to manage people. It's not, and it, like, we don't have to go into the explaining why that style is bad, but basically you need to involve all the people in your team to solve the problems, because if you don't, then you're not going to innovate, you're not going to get to the best decisions, and so on. Another big problem that I've seen with managers is that they don't give feedback.
Oh yeah.
They just don't. And I am mind blown because this is literally the biggest tool that they have. One of the biggest tools to change and to guide, and they make feedback this big, hard thing to do, when in fact feedback does not have to be big and hard and difficult if it's casual and regular. It's the littlest things you can give feedback on. You don't even have to say, I'm giving you feedback right now. I can just tell you, in yesterday's meeting, I noticed you did this, you started with this, and I thought that was a really good way to do it. That's feedback,
Right.
So feedback is very misunderstood, very, I have a lot of opinions about feedback, but that's one. And not giving it is the worst thing a manager can do.
What I'm saying typically, not only for managers, but also for engineers, that, well, you have to talk using words through your mouth to explain to other person, well, either a problem or a challenge or a solution or a feedback, right? Of course, we can all write, but in the end, you want to present your solution or you give the feedback. Well, again, these days, you would type a message over Slack, but you will still have a conversation where you use your mouth and you say the things you would like to say. So, and this is a very misunderstood concept in the sense that you think other people know what you think, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And just say it. Say it once, twice. Yeah. It's fine.
It's not even enough. That's the other thing, is people say it once and they think it's okay. They said it once, it's enough. When in fact, no, especially with managers, they have to say it with their words. So put it out there, articulate it and say it sometimes multiple times in order for it to be effective. And same with expectations, setting expectations. Another anti-pattern that I'm seeing with managers, they don't communicate explicitly what the expectations are from someone. And then they end up in performance evaluation cycles and with bad feedback to give when they haven't even told that person that that's expected of them. So how is that fair?
Well, not at all. But from their point of view, well, come on, I thought you were thinking, I know that you would have known.
Exactly. So I've seen this so many times, so many times. The other thing that I'm seeing with managers is they don't know how to build trust. It's very hard there's obviously a power dynamic, a power imbalance between a manager and a report, right? And reports are genuinely worried. Am I going to say something that, will my manager fire me for this? Or is this going to get me in trouble? In order for your report to be truly, completely honest with you, you have to build that relationship as well. And you have to be a trustworthy person. And people sometimes say, oh, I just try to build rapport with people. And they think that building rapport is finding common hobbies or just chit-chatting. Mm-hmm. And it's not that. Building rapport I don't even like to say it like that. It's more about in one-on-ones. Like, do you really understand your report? And I wrote an article about this, how to make people feel seen and heard. And which means how to make people feel that you understand them. That's one of the key core things to build trust. That plus you are a trustworthy person. Like, for example, follow through. You say you were going to do something for your report, send an email, make an introduction, like whatever, do it.
Yeah, so basically react on the things that your reporter is saying and make sure that you are there with him or her full-time dedication. Yes. And you follow up on the things and you remember the things, and they're not just, okay, we are here, tick, 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 done, 1-to-1, finished, goodbye, see you in a week or to whatever.
Yeah. So be involved, And in the article, I give very specific examples of things you can say, questions to ask, how to, like, there's a technique called reflection, where you can reflect back what you heard or your understanding of the situation and so on. Like that, all of that builds trust, builds that connection. If you don't have that connection, the fact that you're going to giving feedback to that person might not land well. If it comes from a deep foundation of trust, it's very different, has a different power.
If the feedback is not perceived, then basically you're using their energy in their own direction, right? You're saying the words, you're having a call, but your feedback is not being heard. And
yes.
That's the end of the story, actually.
And it goes the other way around. If you don't have this trust, they're not going to feel comfortable telling you the truth, want to tell you what you think, what they think you want to hear. But that's not helping you either, because you also have blind spots. You also can be better as a manager. You also want to hear what their true opinion is, but they need to be comfortable that you're not going to take this information and use it against them.
But with the trust, is a two-way road, right? So it's a trust on both sides. And what would be the advice for engineers to build a trust with a manager?
Great question. Great point. So I think with trust, similar behaviors can help build trust both ways. Number one is consistency and reliability. Like both managers and reports engineers, if they show a behavior where they do what they say they will do, that sets a track record of them being reliable. Then with trust is also authenticity, like being real and truthful about who they are and what they want, and not trying to, but that's hard, right? Because it all falls under being vulnerable, and being vulnerable is risky. We all know that, right? But that's what forms the actual connection. Genuinely interested in growth is also one. And also just being generous with how they approach the world, like not assuming the worst and like giving people the benefit of the doubt, and just being reliable, like consistently exhibiting these behaviors. It's not enough to be reliable once.
Right.
It's not enough to communicate clearly once or be transparent once. You have to keep doing this to show that, because trust is built over time. That's the other thing.
That's true. It takes time and it takes repetition.
It takes time. Yeah. It takes time and takes repetition. And everybody wants to move fast. That's the thing. Everybody wants, and sometimes that's the other thing that I'm seeing with managers, sometimes first-time managers, is they ask very personal questions, not personal, like life personal, but like career goals in the first one-on-one. And I'm like, you haven't even met this person. How do you expect like a fully transparent, honest answer from this person when they don't even know you yet? Like, why would I tell you that I want to, I don't know, be a CEO in 5 years? Because I don't know if you're going to support me in this. You know what I mean? So they just jump too fast and they don't understand trust. So if you have to take your time, build that trust.
But it also depends on the engineer, right? So if it's a more senior person, then basically they're I assume with all their experience are not that vulnerable, and then can go ahead and say like, well, in a new example, I want to be a CDO in 5 years. Well, that's fine. That's I'm telling everyone, right? And that's my plan. And I'm here. I'm working on this, and I'm doing A, B, C, and D. Whereas with when you meet I say junior or starter engineering manager with a more junior engineer, that's where the most problems occur. Do you think so, or is it different?
I would say problems can occur at all, like at all seniorities. I want to say that my experience has been that actually with more junior engineers, I was able to sort of train them more easily in how I wanted them to communicate or how to open up and things like that. They needed to be shown that it's okay. And that's the big thing about good managers is they lead by example as well. They model the behaviors they want to see in others. And so with juniors, it's easier because they are like sponges.
Mhm.
They copy, With more senior people, sometimes they're very set in their ways. Sometimes you end up managing people who have more experience than you. So then they look at you and they're like, what do you know, as a manager? And so
You're
I've
doing
seen that
nothing.
too.
You're only sitting in minutes. Show me your code. Come on. Well,
Yeah, I've seen that. So it's very hard sometimes to gain their trust and make them open up. And I find that sometimes with like very senior people, it's hard to open up. Not impossible, but it just you need patience. You need to,
what is the key there, or there is no single answer?
There is no single answer. However, I know some things that will not work with these people. If it becomes a power struggle, a power fight, that's not going to work. You have to steer away from that as much as you can. You have to steer away from like, hey, like make them understand that you're not there to challenge their position. You're there to support them. You're there to, and they might have, that's the other thing with seniors. Sometimes they might have never had good managers. So their prior experiences with managers might have been not great. So you're there to show them that it can be different, but they have to be open to having that a good relationship with their managers, right? So if it's a power thing, like, no, you're wrong, I'm wrong, you're right, haha, I'm going to show you, it's not going to work.
No.
That's not going to work.
That's a dead end.
What is going to work is you finding opportunities for them, you making them shine, you giving them choices and giving them autonomy and authority. That's what's going to help you and your relationship with them. Showing that you listen, showing that you that's the other thing is with new managers. Sometimes they come into a team and they what I've done as a tech lead is I actually worked with this manager, the new manager, to show them, hey, here are the issues we have on the team right now. Mm-hmm. They loved it. They're like, great, I have somewhere to start. This is wonderful, So these seniors will have opinions about what needs to be done differently. Involve them. Show them you want to solve their problems.
What helped me was to make sure I learned their language in the sense of technical things. I am not doing their job. I'm not pretending to be doing any of their job. But rather when they explain the problem, the technical thing that they're doing, I'm not only saying, okay, but I understand and kind of can follow their things that they were explaining. And that's the advice I also give to several managers that help them kind of make sure you can explain their thing the engineer does in 3 simple sentences in your language, but make sure you kind of understand, not deeply, you don't have to be there, but rather explain to your kid, right? Or explain to your grandma in 3 simple sentences the thing that the person is doing. And kind of with a technical background, it helps a lot because when you dive deeper, you can follow, but not make the decisions anymore as you're not an architect, not a technical enough. But you can understand all the things and all the complexity. That's one thing. And second is instead of going to solve their technical problems, solve or help with organizational problems. Organize a team. That was one of the things, their team of around 5 very bright technical people were working together, and the lead was clueless about what they're doing. Everybody was autonomous. And when he had to shuffle the people on different projects, he had all in his mind instead of their things that he had to do. So it was another pain that had to talk to people all the time and make sure they understand and follow each customers. And instead I said look, let's organize their projects that you are doing in a very simple tool, and then it will help you, it will help me to understand where we lack people. So you don't have to work overnight, and that you don't have to spend weekend, where other people's time is being missed and where people are just waiting for you, so that we can organize it in a better way, and so on and so forth. So basically looking in the organizational and teamwork that from the first point of view, was as for the manager, it was striking immediately. But for them, they were like, okay, we are working. I'm just taking a phone to call John to jump on another project. Oh, I remember he already has 5 small customers, so he can take a 6. And okay, but why do you keep it all in your head, right? Just put it in the system, offload it, and make sure you can then optimize and also report there and show where the team stands and how it evolves. And that was a way for me to talk with those senior people, and that helps. Just one of my stories, right?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I've seen similar situations, because sometimes I think seniors are my time is important, so I don't want to be bothered with certain things. And on the other hand, the engineering manager is but I need access to this information, so why not centralize it somewhere so I don't have to bother you? And I wanted to add one more point. So with more senior, when you're managing people who are more senior than you, 2 things that I think are very, very important. One is not hiding what you don't know and asking them to teach you. Obviously, to a certain extent, don't take up too much of their time, but the express desire to really understand what their work is about. And then secondly, and this is again one of very it's a low hanging fruit question, which any manager can ask more of, which is what can I do for you? How can I help you? Tell me, is there anything I can do? And they'll tell you, or not. Maybe there's nothing. But it's a very powerful question.
So this is the bad things or the bad management or habits, attitudes that are easily spotted that, I'm sure all of us have seen more or less of those. But what other kind of first nice looking, but in reality something that you don't like to experience that leads to the bad management? You mentioned you have several examples.
Yeah. So there's this idea that managers should empower their people, right? The opposite of that is the micromanaging, where the manager does everything, that makes all the decisions, facilitates everything. So the other extreme is negligence and absence. It's managers who focus more on managing up, and they are not present for their teams. They do the one-on-ones, they express empathy, but when it comes to solving real problems, they're not there. They're in meetings all the time. They're not available. Then I've had issues as a tech lead with product managers, with other roles where we were not aligned as functions. The roadmap wasn't there, things like that. And I, as a tech lead, my hands were pretty tight because I also had to execute on various problems. So things like aligning the roadmap with the vision of the team, the mission of the team, those are things where the manager that was their job, right? But because they were so busy with other things, this sort of got dropped. And it was clearly impacting the team and our performance and our execution, right? And so in a way, is I'm not here to save you all the time type of mentality. You have to deal with your own problems. But if those problems are above my pay grade, no matter how much I try, I'm just not in the right position to solve these problems. And these problems are bigger, right? So when it comes to, aligning with product, that one's big, And so an absent manager is it just feels like abandoning, right?
Because basically,
and also these absent managers are not going to be the ones who are able to give feedback, and they're just going to tell you, keep up the good work. You're doing great. Well, we all know those people.
Yeah. Like not really diving into their essence of their work, and they're basically saying, "Yeah, looks nice. Just do it. Just do it," but not really being present there and being a part of the team.
And these are the people who you're like, what does this person even do? Like, I feel like there are a lot of people who had managers that they had no idea what their managers are doing. And obviously, this is a problem on the manager side that it's not that they're not doing things, it's that they're not communicating clearly what they're doing. But it's also sometimes it's because they're not doing the things that the team needs them to do. So that's the opposite that I'm seeing. And it's just as damaging because if you don't have the support of your manager, and if you have to start solving these problems that are not your problems to begin with to solve, that's how you burn out, to be honest. You just to do too much. You're trying to solve everything, and that's not.
Was engineering asking question like, what are you doing, my dear manager? There is an easy answer. This is a bad advice. Don't take it. Or like say, let's swap the roles, right? I do the engineering part, you do the management part, and let's try it out. And most engineers will say no, but that's a bad thing to do unless you have a really good trust with the person, right? If the person knows you're valuable and you do the stuff and then give this joke, you can do this twist, and it has been a good one. And once I did it, and the person said like, okay, then let's also swap the salaries. I said, fine with me. Are you ready to do my job? And he was like, no, not really.
Well, it's interesting that you bring this up because I wrote a series about transitioning to management, and and I talked about like myths and challenges, and I wrote an entire article about things that engineers, when they switch to management, they don't realize that they have to deal with. And so that's why a lot of people, when they switch to management, they're like, oh my God, I wish someone told me that I need to do this. I don't know if I want this, because they only see the nice, easy things, let's say.
Yeah, it's the same like with traveling, like lots of people think, wow, traveling is lots of fun when you travel on business and you visit tons of locations. But then you start explaining, like, look, I get on the plane Monday morning, I'm to Tuesday there, Wednesday I'm at home. I actually lost 4 days without my family. I'm exhausted, and all the work that I had to do is still there. So it's not that I'm traveling for fun. I just have to go there, talk with that people, with those team, and then basically work at the plane. And yeah, that's the business trips are business trips. They are not for fun. And then after some time, when you're used to those business trips, you're not that excited about traveling anymore. You say like, okay, I would like to stay at home. And then when you go with your family, they are excited, and you're being the dullest person on the whole family, and say like, okay, well, I've been here yesterday in this airport, or I don't really I don't feel the excitement, and then you also lose that part of your life. So everything you have to take with care, and not just saying, well, this is a funny, easiest part, but there's always a hard part that you have to take with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
So what was another? Give us another strange example of the person being obviously nice, but not then going in the good direction in the long run.
So I think this is a milder one, in the sense that, so this is where we are not talking about bad management particularly. We're talking about ineffective management. And especially with like first-time managers, there are certain tendencies. For example, they try to be the team's best friend. And they don't. Managers need to be decisive at some points. They need to know when to be more decisive and others. And sometimes there are times where people just spend so much time just in meetings debating with no concrete result. and they spend a lot of time. Managers need to know when to be the one that says, okay, guys, we need to decide this by this time, like needs to be a little more forceful. But because they're trying to be everybody's friend, then they're afraid that they're not going to be liked if they're saying, they're a little more decisive.
Mhm.
So, like I've seen this with a junior manager that I used to work with, where we were trying to decide on a process and I forgot what it was, like sprint planning or something, like how frequent, what's the format. And we were voting democratically and everybody had opinions and like we were not getting anywhere. And he was trying to be democratic about how we choose this so that he has buy-ins from everybody. We're still not going anywhere. And we were just going on in circles, talking and not. Oh, I think it was how to track bugs,
Mhm.
whether to use Asana or to use something else. And this is like, you need to know when it's the return of investment. I forgot what it was called. But when you pass the point where you've invested way too much time on something, and sometimes good managers need to be a little forceful, know when to draw the lines of enough, and that's like, sometimes you're not going to be liked for that, but you have to be okay with it.
But
You have to be okay with not like being liked everybody, but like people can still understand that you're doing the right thing. Maybe in the moment they're going to be like, oh, I wanted to talk more about this or whatever, but they're going to understand where you're coming from.
I think this also brings respect towards the manager, because the team
Absolutely.
sees that the person is doing his or her job and not being there just for listening and taking part in the conversation, but also guiding the team, and with the time making such moves will help the manager to get the bigger trust with the team in general, and also shape the team
Absolutely.
a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to facilitate. That's the other thing that they sometimes don't understand. They need to facilitate making decisions, like in the discussions. But they need to be, and also like hold agendas, keep track of time, keep people on a track. Because people have a tendency to just talk and talk. Like they can get distracted. Good managers keep people focused on what's important. Not on because people sometimes can focus on what's not important, right?
Mhm.
They need to keep people focused on what's important.
Yeah.
And eliminate distractions.
Yeah. When we were discussing the preparation, we said that basically everyone can be a leader. Like you're giving very good examples and very good practices for engineering managers who are starting their job. And basically, it's from both sides, right? Their engineer can grow in their EM, or their EM can become a better leader and lead up and lead both the team. When you moved from engineer to a team lead, what specifically for you changed as a leader in that role?
I love this question because I've been, and I wrote this, I told the story in my newsletter, but for me, the biggest aha moment was when Google sent me to this leadership training called Edge. So I was an Eng 2 at the time, and my manager saw leadership potential in me. I was not a leader. I was an Eng 2. I wasn't even a senior at the time, right? So he sent me to this training, and we did these exercises that had nothing to do with building software. And they had everything to do with leadership, though, and collaboration and taking turns. But those exercises were so powerful because it showed that, first of all, we need leaders. There were times where nobody wanted to step up in these exercises when we clearly needed someone to sort of step up. It was a need, right? That's when I realized that, wait a second, a leader steps up because they see they're doing it for the people around them, right? It doesn't have to be a role. It doesn't have to be a title. It's a set of behaviors and a mindset. And so that means then I came back from this training. I was like, wait a second. I can do all these, I can exhibit these behaviors, even though I'm not a lead, I'm not a manager, I'm not even a tech lead. But I did go back to my manager at the time and told him, hey, this was amazing. Thank you for sending me. And also, I want to help you build the team. Like, I can see this being a need and I want to help you, And that's how I I just started sort of exhibiting these behaviors, like took initiative to solve issues that I'm seeing around, spoke my mind on issues of importance, like what I thought was important. I spoke my mind about it. I was able to bring out other people with me, like show them how to do it, teach them, or convince them that they should, join my efforts. And I genuinely cared about the success of others. So these are behaviors that everybody can do. I mean, and you don't even have to switch your role or, but these are just how you behave. And it's what I call self-leadership, right? Act like you're your own leader. And that's honestly also a powerful way to, like, what happened in my case is I became the de facto tech lead for a project. Like, they were like, okay, we need a tech lead for this project. Who's going to be? Well, Irina's the obvious person because she's kind of been doing it anyway.
That's strange because right now you mentioned being a self leader, right? Or what you said. And my previous guest, we talked with Casey Dye about going on the market and finding your job, and he mentioned that to release the stress from people, he proposes to think of you as being a service agency that proposes service for people and not basically and basically selling the service and kind of saying, okay, you run your company and you're being self company. So it's strange how two different people are talking about self and making sure that you as a person, as an individual, feel happy and safe there. And you have to take care about this. And I think specifically with COVID and all the depression that we have and all the things happening in the world, this becomes even more and more important to make sure that you are happy and then you lead or you sell or you show this to others and you light this up and this makes other people also shine.
And you know what? This is such a powerful fundamental thing about leadership, because this is, and it's the same with parenting, it's the same with coaching, it's the same with everything. You model the behavior you want to see. People see that, and that's what they instinctually start doing. And that's more powerful than telling people what to do.
Absolutely.
You just live and breathe that. And that's how you become a business too. Like you think of yourself as your own CEO. What are the values? Oh, the core values. You haven't even talked about core values, but that's a key one, right? How do you behave is dictated by your core values. What are those core values? And that, even as if you want to be the CEO, your core values are going to be the core values of the company. And even if you don't say it, people will see it. People see how you behave in your day-to-day, right? So it just trickles down. It all trickles down. It all ripples. And you start with how you conduct yourself every single day. And you have to take care of yourself first. And that's the only thing you can actually control. That's another thing that people sometimes fail to realize when they're trying to control or micromanage or whatever. It's an illusion. They can only control themselves. There's so many things outside of our control, but we're not comfortable thinking about that. It's like something our brains just freak out if we think about how.
Let's not go in that rabbit hole. Let's stay where we are comfortable and powerful and not go in the things that aren't outside of our control. Then that's our conversation for another
stay
hour.
Grounded within yourself. So it starts with us, and it stays. That's where we have to work on.
Thank you, Irina, for those insights and for this conversation. It has been very nice and pleasure to have you as a guest and talk through all the different things about engineering management. And we'll put this somewhere earlier, but I would like to ask listeners, what other bad engineering management styles, examples, behaviors have you experienced? Just write in the comments below. It would be very interesting to see your stories and learn from them. It's not that we complain, but we learn from them and we can help each other. And we need to talk this through to make sure that this gets less and less and the whole world gets better and better.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. If people would like to find you and talk to you, where should they go?
Yeah, so I have my coaching website, irinastanescu.com. I have my newsletter, thecaringtechie.com, and they can also find me on LinkedIn. Either one has an email or direct message or whatever they want to contact me, and I'm more than happy. I read and respond to all messages, all comments. So whatever suits you better, you can reach me there.
We'll put all the links below in the description of the video, so people can go and follow you or subscribe to your newsletter. And when you're there in the links, also hit the like and subscribe button to make sure you'll get more of the content which is coming soon our way. So thank you once again, Irina. Have a good one.
Thank you.